I'm Jack Hull, and this is Building Bonds and Breaking Barriers. Tonight, we share stories of how the relationships we build can help us all succeed. For some, individual bonds, like a person and their pet, can be the difference in how one sees the world. For others, it's in the communities we build, whether it be on the court, on the field, or on the rink. In 1914, workers in what is now Bonn, Germany, discovered the grave of a dog and two people, seemingly buried together. The remains date back about 14,000 years. The discovery uncovered questions about our relationship with dogs and suggests that domestication had begun even earlier. What's even more surprising is how much there's still left to learn. Tonight, we go in depth on the benefits that dogs and other animals have on our mental health.
They say it's man's best friend, but is it also man's best therapy? Meet Dasha Levin, a junior at Chapman University, and his 2-year-old poodle, Violet. Dasha and Violet share a special connection. For Dasha, Violet serves as an emotional support dog who has helped him navigate the world of anxiety and depression. They found each other in the beginning of the pandemic.
It was a very lonely time for me because it was because of the height of COVID and my parents were very high risk, and I had other things involved that I couldn't really go out. So that meant that I was alone a lot of the time and just sort of sitting around in my house.
And Dasha isn't alone. The World Health Organization estimates that in 2020, the pandemic triggered a 25% increase in depression, with younger people especially vulnerable. I spoke to Dr. Jessica Walker, assistant professor at Chapman University, and asked her about how our mental health took a hit.
They went from having really social experiences in school, in college, with other young people going out, having fun, and then they were home, isolated, unable to get out.
After trying traditional forms of therapy to alleviate some of his anxiety, Dasha knew he had to find other options. That's when Violet came into the picture.
She really has impacted my life in the sense that she gets me out.
Violet allows Dasha to break from isolation. By taking her out for walks or to play, he finds himself becoming just as much of a social butterfly as his fun-loving companion.
The big reason why I decided to get her in particular is because she's a very active dog, and I knew that that would force me to go out and in the daylight.
And although it's had a huge impact on his life, it comes with great responsibility.
You have to take care of the animal, and they're constantly giving you this feedback of love and support. And that gets people out of bed in the morning. And animals provide that social bonding, that being to care about, that will be a source of dopamine release and calm.
And it's no secret that having a pet does in fact make us more active. Taking your animals on walks, taking them to the park, or even taking them to a dog beach like this are all excellent ways of fulfilling our social needs. But what may surprise you is how this special connection operates on a neurological level.
When someone has a positive experience, there is a part of the brain called the basal ganglia that responds when people experience something that makes them feel good. And when that happens, the brain releases a chemical called dopamine. And dopamine, when it travels out to other parts of the brain, gives the person sort of a pleasure or rewarding feeling.
And it doesn't stop at dogs. We spoke to Krista Renta, a licensed pet evaluator at Pet Partners, who told us about how veterans with PTSD found help in an unlikely companion.
Pretty bird? Oh, good boy.
Traumatized parrots.
A lot of these veterans had PTSD just like the birds, and so she worked with a hospital, or she brought the veterans into the aviary and had them care for the birds, interact with the birds, and what they found was that both helped each other get through their PTSD.
As the rate of those diagnosed with depression seeking treatment continues to rise, the most common forms include seeking a health professional or taking prescription medication.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and medication have been the dominant forms of treatment for mental health. Why animals and why now?
They can actually lower or actually increase your pain tolerance. So when your pain tolerance is increased, it increases your immunity.
Rather than directly interfere with your brain's biochemistry, it alleviates symptoms by tending to instinctive human needs.
Medications are controlled substances, and so they do have side effects. They do impact the body, possibly negatively, over time. And with animals, the therapy they bring is completely non-invasive.
And Dr. Walker agrees.
Animals provide a way to use the brain's own natural resources. Instead of sort of interfering with brain chemicals with medication.
Dr. Caroline Wilson, clinical associate professor at Chapman University, explains how these human instincts include the need to provide and nurture, whether that be for people or for pets.
By having actual contact with animals, you're also getting this feedback system that's going to activate other parts of your brain that are not just involved with happiness, but actual caretaking.
And for Dasha, his relationship with Violet has become so much more than treatment. It's now a friendship.
It's something that's reliable and is almost without fail. It's an animal that has your back and seeks you for trust, and you build that trust with it.
If you want to register your support animal, you can apply at the U.S. Service Animals website.
Our analysts Jack Holt and Josh Blinder have some teams that are either going to heaven or hell in the future.
Thanks, guys, and yes, that's right. Even though the season isn't over, it's never too late to look into the crystal ball and see these teams' futures. Starting with the Detroit Lions, heaven. Did you know that as of right now, and it's probably hard to tell because if you don't live in Detroit, you are not watching the Lions, but they have the 5th highest scoring offense. That is right. After a shaky 2021 campaign, Jared Goff has been on fire. Right now, he leads the league, he is 7th in the league in passer rating, leading his squad to 5 wins in 6 weeks. Detroit already has a fighting chance to make the playoffs this year. I'm just saying, if you boost that defense, they can make the NFC North interesting for years to come.
I agree. What's interesting about the Lions is that, as you said, they can make the playoffs, but they're also projected to have a top 5 pick because of that Rams team being so bad this year, looking at the top 5. And some of those players coming into this year's draft, I think, could already ascend their team like to heaven, like Seth Rogen at the end of the movie This Is the End, going up to heaven with that situation. But Heisman finalists, right? C.J. Stroud, any team, I think, where he goes, as well as Bryce Young. The Lions are in an interesting spot where are they going to go get their guy? Are they happy with Jared Goff right now as their quarterback? It's certainly going to be interesting to watch.
I know, and whoever's helming the center, all I'm saying is that Dan Campbell on the sideline, you can't go wrong. But now everything can't be good. Let's go down to hell with the Minnesota Vikings. First off, I want to say that I am a big Kirk Cousins supporter. I think he has gotten way too much flack over his career. But let's be honest, guys. There is a reason why he is working on a 1-year contract right now. In 4 seasons with Minnesota, only 1 playoff appearance and only 1 victory. I don't think it's wrong to say that Kirk Cousins has always been surrounded by immense offensive talent his whole entire career. This year, he has the cream of the crop. Justin Jefferson, A.J. Hutchinson, and additionally Dalvin Cook. If he doesn't do it this year, not only would I be skeptical of keeping him around another year, I see the Minnesota Vikings being on the quarterback carousel for a long time.
Absolutely. It's interesting right now in the NFC North. There's been a lot of talk there, but let's send things out west, and we're going to have our own Parker Bell, who's going to talk about a team he thinks might be going to hell.
Thank you, Jack and Josh. And thank you to everybody in the studio who's putting together this star-studded crossover event. Back to our segment, though. I'm here in the City of Angels to answer the question everybody's been wondering. Are the Rams, the defending champs, in heaven or in hell? Guys, I'm here to tell you, these Rams are hanging with Hades. They are flirting with hell. Hell is on the horizon. This offseason will be one of the most critical off seasons they have ever had. I understand there were injuries that plagued them this season with the O-line and Stafford going down. But we got to remind everybody, there were rumors of retirement from A.D. McVay before a terrible season. Is it off the tables? Not completely, even with the new contract. Also, Stafford, age 35, off of a concussion and a spinal contusion. Does he really want to keep getting beat up? I wouldn't want to, and I've seen quarterbacks leave for less. Now that's doomsday scenario. I'm here to tell you though, Rams, they can climb out of hell like the Hercules of Greek mythology. They can escape Hades. If you keep that core three, if you fix the rush game, the pass rush game, and you fix the O-line, you can be right up there on the top of the rankings once again, competing, because you already have Cooper and Jalen Ramsey still on contract. Things can look up for the Rams. They may not be in hell forever while they are right now. Things can turn around. Thank you, and back to you guys to talk some more NFC North about another team that may be looking up in heaven.
Awesome to have Parker into the show. So right now the Bears, Jack, are currently sitting at the third worst team in the National Football League. But the way the league works, that means they'd have the third pick in the NFL draft. And with the prospects of these great quarterbacks, they look to have a lot of leverage. That means if they want to go get a player like Will Anderson, one of the best defenders in college football, or Jalen Carter to shore up that defensive line, as well as they've been kind of resurgent right now. It's Justin Fields. His development certainly looks impressive, breaking several records this year, on pace to break the record of, single-season rushing yards as a quarterback. You'd like to see him pass the ball a little bit better, and how are they going to do that? They could go get a wide receiver with $124 million in cap space. That's $100 million more than the league average going into next season. So things are looking up for that Bears franchise in the future.
Oh, yeah, especially with Justin Fields. Patience, I think, has paid off. After a rough first year and kind of a shaky start to this year, we really got to see him pop, and I think that that's something that Chicago can be excited about. We're going to switch it up a little bit with the Tennessee Titans. This time, it's purgatory. That's right. They're not going up, but they're not going down. And in sports, sometimes that's worse than hell. Let's face it, guys. Derrick Henry is a monster, but a running back can only take your team so far. I like what they could do in the regular season, Josh, don't get me wrong. But with Ryan Tannehill, is he really going to be the guy that can get them over the hump? I mean, they made it to the AFC Championship, but in the 2 years since, I haven't seen anything to really convince me. And of course, having Mike Vrabel as your head coach and being in a weak AFC South is always going to make you a playoff contender, simply because the division is just so easy to win. But if in terms of doing anything more than that, I think they're going to be middle of the road for a while.
Yeah, I mean, in sports like football, sometimes it's better to just be bad for a season, get a high pick, and then you're able to set yourself up for the future, or be good enough to compete for a Super Bowl with as good as the AFC is when you have quarterbacks like Burrow, Herbert, Mahomes, and Allen. Going to be tough for the Tennessee Titans in the future. That's all for me, Jack, and Parker. We'll send it back to you, ladies.
Lamar Jackson is the future of the Atlanta Falcons. Hey guys, March 15th is coming up, and if you don't know what that means that is the new league year for the NFL. And what does that mean? We have a bunch of big name free agent quarterbacks and some quarterbacks who are on the trading block who are more than likely about to find themselves in new places. I'm here to tell you whether some of these rumors are ones that you should believe or some that you should ignore in a new segment that I call Cara Buy or Cara Sell. Starting off with Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets, I think this one is without a doubt a Cara Buy. Think about it. I saw the craziest stat the other day. Out of 36 quarterbacks who threw over 175 passes, the bottom 3 were all Jets quarterbacks. That's right, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. And this team still went 7-9. It's obvious that this team has all of the pieces around it. Last year they had the defensive and offensive rookie of the year. When was the last time you saw that? But they need a quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers is that quarterback. And we also have seen that the Green Bay Packers are clearly ready to move on and invest in Jordan Love. This is the time for the New York Jets to strike, throw what they can at him, and get themselves a chance to actually make some noise in the AFC. For me, this one is a no-brainer. Next up is Derek Carr to the Carolina Panthers. This one is a hard carousel. Nope. I see this all the time on TV and on radio. Everyone talking about Derek Carr to the Panthers, and it just needs to stop. When I think about it, there are 2 teams in the Panthers division that are clearly better suitors for him. The New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Throughout all of Derek's Carr career, we have been hearing about how he hasn't been the guy that can take the Raiders and make them, not only a considerably improved team, but a consistent playoff contender and
a dark horse Super Bowl contender. But think about it, in the time that Derek Carr was in not even Oakland, but also in Vegas, we have seen him have to deal with consistently the worst defense in the NFL. If it's not 32nd, well, it's 29th, and we act like that's an improvement. If Derek Carr goes to Carolina, you're going to see nothing but more of the same. You're going to see incompetent upper management. You're going to see a team that tries to get him pieces but consistently fails. I think Derek Carr is a quarterback much better suited for teams that have considerably more strong cultures of winning, like the New Orleans Saints, even without Sean Payton, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they still have a lot of pieces on that team. And then for our third one, I think this is the hottest take out of them all, but I'm just going to say it. Lamar Jackson is going to be an Atlanta Falcon. That is a carrot buy. I think we can all agree that the contract talks between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are going nowhere. He clearly wants more guaranteed money than the Baltimore Ravens are willing to provide for him. And somehow, an MVP in multiple seasons of a high winning percentage. If I'm correct, it is out of all starters, he has the highest winning percentage as a starting quarterback in the league. But apparently it's not enough for Baltimore. So if I'm Baltimore, I'm telling myself, I gotta get the hell out of there. And if there's any team that I wanna go to, it's gonna be Atlanta. I mean, we're getting Calvin Ridley back this year, and we have Cordell Patterson. I mean, imagine that trio of speed between the three of them. They're going to be running up and down the field on any given Sunday. And that's not even to mention Kyle Pitts, and they have a high draft pick, so they're able to either get Lamar protection or work on the defensive front. I see this as a win-win, and Lamar, if you're worried about money, let me let you in on a little secret. The Atlanta Falcons, second largest cap space in the league this year. They're able to pay you. They're going to want to pay you. If you're the second coming of Michael Vick, as we all think, what better way to go than the place where Michael Vick was in Atlanta? And then finally, this one's a little bit more of a gimme, but Carson Wentz to the XFL, that is going to be a hard carousel.
Nope.
Look, he's not that bad. It is a little disappointing when you go through 3 teams in 3 years, but Carson Wentz's career is no longer one of a team that can possibly go to Carson Wentz and make a playoff run. It's looking like he's going to be a backup for the rest of his career, and a very good one, as a matter of fact. What I'm thinking is Carson Wentz is probably going to get a backup position, kind of similar to Joe Flacco, and that's how he's going to be remembered for the rest of his career. A guy who's willing to come into the game if your franchise quarterback is hurt, and maybe over the stretch of a couple of games he can get you a couple victories, but other than that, I don't see him doing a lot. But I don't want to rule out the fact that, or rule out at least the possibility that we're going to see another QB desperate team willing to throw a bunch of money trying to make themselves believe that Carson Wentz is going to be anything more than a backup.